and welcome back to another exciting series of lectures. Just a little bit of housekeeping before we get started. Just ensure that your cell phones are either on silence or vibrate. Thank you. It has been said that in everything we should give thanks. So at this time I'll call on Reverend Roscoe Roll, who would come and bring the invocation. Reverend Roll.
Let us pray. Our Father God, we give you thanks, we give you praise. Father, we come today just to say thank you for allowing us to see the beauty of another day that you have done. Now, God, we welcome you into our midst. We ask, dear God, that you will take full control of this setting today, dear God. Father, today we open our hearts to you. Ask a blessing upon the committee and whatever they have in store now and in the future. Father, bless our hearts. In Jesus' name. Amen.
Okay, coming now to officially welcome us will be Senior Quantity Surveyor, Ms. Eloise Fernanda, who is also our chair. Ms. Fernanda.
Good morning, welcome. On behalf of the Honorable T. Desmond Bannister, Cabinet Minister, Member of Parliament, Minister of Works, our Permanent Secretary, Mrs. Coral Bain Colbert, our Undersecretary, Mrs. Emma Folks, Director of Public Works, Ms. Melanie Roach, Deputy Director, Mr. Caldwell Pratt, Deputy Director, Damian Francis, Robert Moses, and Acting Director of Physical Planning, Mr. Charles Zonical. On behalf of the Minister Bannister, Permanent Secretary Colbrook, Director Roach, and my distinguished lecture series committee members, I extend a warm welcome to each and every one of you. We are delighted that so many of you came out to support and share in the opening of our third annual Distinguished Lecture Series under the theme, Knowledge, Integrity, Teamwork. The Distinguished Lecture Series was a weekly event hosted by the Ministry of Works, now being held every other Thursday. Various professionals are invited to speak on widespread topics with technical aspects as well as administrative aspects, fostering a mutual interest as we work together towards a common goal. We thank our Minister and his support and encouragement throughout the past years, and we look forward to having many of you attend these dynamic lectures, which are now held every other Thursday here in this hearing room at the Physical Planning Department. Today, this audience lends a true indication of the importance and the value of each employee here at the Ministry of Public Works. We are delighted that you have chosen to attend this official opening of the 2020 Distinguished Lecture Series. Once again, welcome one and all, and thank you for accepting our invitation. Have a wonderful afternoon.
Thank you very much, Madam Chair. It has been said that the Bahamas is a destination of choice. Well, I believe that the Ministry of Works is a destination of choice for all aspiring engineers. And at this particular time, we'll call on First Assistant Secretary, Ms. Brennan, who would come and introduce some of our new staff. Ms. Brennan.
Good afternoon to all. The technical staff of the Ministry of Public Works continues to grow. In 2019, the ministry took on 26 new employees in various disciplines. It is now my distinct pleasure to officially introduce our new employees and they are. And as I call your name, can you kind of stand? And just sit down. So we begin with Scott Sawyer, area engineer who's not here today because he's in North Eleuthera. We have three senior engineers, and they are Ian Young, Clint Bain, and Richard Bruno. One senior architect, Mark Smith. Thank you. Two architects, Adrian Ramsey and Jaquel Burrows. One draftsman, Giovanni Russell. 5 assistant architects, Mutasa Butler, Evan Cartwright, Tina Barnett, Vaughn Hanna, and Shahira Adderley. We have 6 assistant engineers, Ari Smith, Macario Bryden, Ariel Brannon, Nicholas Ferguson, Jesse Wheeler. 1 engineering assistant, Danielle Thurston. 1 senior inspector, William Lockhart. 1 assistant inspector, Albert Maynard. 1 assistant environmentalist specialist, Alexio Brown, and a training technical officer, LeVar Fox. And with us also, that you may not know, are the Deputy Director of Security, Maury Evans, and also the Deputy Director of Security, Walter Shelton. They are our new employees for the year 2019. I would also like to present to you, or to introduce you to our Permanent Secretary, Mrs. Cora Bain Colbrook, who is also fairly new to the Ministry of Works, but not to the public service, having served in the government service for a number of years, from 1977. She is a seasoned public officer.
Amen.
Say amen to that again. So she comes to us with a wealth of knowledge and experience. She has served in a number of ministries, namely the Ministry of Youth, Sports and Community Affairs, the Ministry of Foreign Affairs and Immigration, Ministry of Social Services and Urban Development, Ministry of Transport and Local Government, and she joined us in August 2019, us at the Ministry of Public Works in August of 2019. So she's also new. So let us also welcome Permanent Secretary. Madam Pierce, I don't know whether you wish to say a few words. Welcome up, yes, sorry.
Good afternoon. It is certainly a delight to be here. It's only been about 6 months, but I must thank you for welcoming me with open arms. I thank you for your cooperation and support, which I have received to date. And I look forward to a wonderful relationship in the months and years ahead. I'm certainly delighted to be here for the launch of the 2020 lectureship series. And you don't know what I know, but all I can say to you is stay tuned. They're going to be wonderful. We have a vast array of speakers, topics to be covered for you, and I just want to say to you, don't miss it. Don't miss it. I look forward to seeing you 2 weeks from today, same time, same place. God bless you.
Thank you, Madam Pierce. It is now also my distinct pleasure to introduce our guest speaker for this afternoon. Our guest speaker was born in Nassau, was the first female Bahamian deacon and priest in the Anglican Diocese of the Bahamas and the Turks and Caicos Islands. She studied in the Bahamas, in Jamaica, England, Canada, and the USA, and holds degrees in English, in theology, and in pastoral counseling. She is also a very active member in the community. She serves as the Anglican Hospital Chaplain, visiting PMH doctors, geriatrics, and detox wards, and the female correctional facility. She is a weekly columnist in the Tribune Religion section, chaplain to the House of Assembly, chairperson of the National Maritime Policy Implementation Committee, the first vice president of the Northeastern Pastors Alliance in New Providence, and a presenter for the National Parenting Program and PACE. She's also a guest speaker for various denominations, schools, and civic organizations. She has been counseling individuals and couples since 1985. She's also an author and has published several books of meditations. And I'd like to say that these books are all laid here on the table for a very small fee. Okay? Or you can order it online on Amazon. She is married, and they have a son, daughter-in-law, and granddaughter. Ministry of Public Works, please join me in welcoming our guest speaker, the Reverend Angela C. Bosfield Palacious, who will speak on Your Best is Yet to Come. Welcome.
Good afternoon. How are you all? The longer you live, the longer the CV gets, isn't it? Never mind. By the time I'm 100, then I won't have to do any lecturing. The introduction will have said it all. I'm grateful for the privilege of being here with you at this time. And so I bring greetings from our bishop and from the Anglican family. I bring my greetings to PS, Ms. Corvain Cobra, to our Deputy Director, Mr. Cavill Pratt, to our Acting Director of Physical Planning, Mr. Charles Sonical, and to the FAS, Ms. Juliana Brennan, and to senior staff and all of the rest of you, distinguished members of this illustrious ministry. I ask you to join me in prayer, because I want to give you God's best. Gracious God, thank you for the opportunity to be in this place at this time with these your people. I pray, Lord, that it is your word that is spoken and only my voice that is heard. I ask, Lord, that our nation may be blessed. Praying in the name of God the Father, God the Son, and God the Holy Spirit. Amen. Your best is yet to come. Please turn to your neighbor and say, your best is yet to come. Now, do you believe it? That's the thing. Now, see, if you were in church, I'd tell you you can't lie in church. But, since you're here, you might be able to slide. But just wanting to know if that is something that you really believe. Because a lot makes a difference between what you really think about yourself and what you accomplish. So let's move along. Building a great team to help the nation. Again, do you believe this? When I look from here, you can't see the colors and the faces. What an awesome team you are. And I'm so privileged to be in your presence because you are the ones that are making a great difference in our country. Even if you cannot always measure the impact, and if we are not always as grateful as we should be, you know that God who sees and knows all things understands your heart and knows that when you come to work, you come intending to build a nation. There's a story told of a man who went on a construction site, and there were several workers, of course, working. And so the first man was just putting one block on top of the next. And he said to him, "What are you doing?" And he said, "Well, I'm putting this pile of blocks in this formation. I'm just putting one block on top of the next. He said, okay. So he went further and he saw another person and he said to him with a pile of blocks doing similar work, and he said, what are you doing? And he said, I am building a wall. And he continued, looking at his watch to see, well, not yours, but looking at his watch to see the time, to know if it was knocking off time yet. And he got to the third person, and he was humming Amazing Grace, and he was into what he was doing, and just seeming to be celebrating something. And he said to him, he said, well, what are you doing? Because he was putting blocks one on top of the other. And he looked at him and he said in a quiet voice, he said, I am building a cathedral. 3 different workers, 3 different spirits, 3 different visions, 3 different understanding of their purpose and the plan. And so I hope that every day as you put your block one on top of the other in whatever area you work in, that you are building a nation, a great nation. And a grateful nation will one day understand why we need each one of you to do your best for us, and why we need to be bringing our best to the work that we do for you. So, your best is up to you. Do you believe this? Do you believe that you can make the difference in your own best? Because sometimes we begin to think that it depends on certain conditions, it depends on certain people, it depends on external circumstances. But a lot of who you are, of course, is going to be up to you. And so, you have the power. See, I like playing around. I'm just like a child. I'm learning how to do these things. So just humor me. You have the power to be and to do your best. And so I want you to think with this next one. Every day you have many things out of your control. And we know that. The more we look at the news, listen to the news, watch the news, try to avoid the news, we have this possible rising kind of panic that everything is going haywire and is out of our control. But there are some things that are within our control. And what you can control is your attitude and your actions, right? So I'm going to throw in a little exercise. You always do these things as the Spirit moves. So the Spirit is moving, and so this is not in the PowerPoint, but please turn to one of your neighbors and say to them, bearing in mind that this building is well constructed and the electrical has been well done by a gentleman I was sitting beside, so it should stand. Please turn to your neighbor and say, you hurt me, but I forgive you. Let's try that. Again, if you were in church, I'd have to say to you, I hope you're telling the truth. But what I really want you to do is put it in your pocket and keep it for the right occasion. Because you're probably sitting next to the wrong person to say that to. So it was easy. So when you go home today, or when you go back, or wherever, whoever needs to hear that, I hope you keep that in your pocket. Now, this one is going to be a real test of everything in this building. So, if we make it through this lecture series today, then we could take any hurricane that comes. Please say to your neighbor this time, I was wrong. Please forgive me. Now that's a little harder, right? The song is loud to me. I was wrong. Now you know. Confession is good for the soul, and I usually do confession by appointment, but I bet you for some of you that's the first time you ever said that you were wrong. Amen? But anyway, I won't ask for a head count. But really, when it comes to attitude and actions, we determine whether we're going to be angry or resentful, or we're going to come in on some people's, all sides of their bed is the wrong side. And you become, the victim of their mood and moment. But we can make a difference, and that is going to affect everybody's working day to some degree. Although if you put your armor on early in the morning and get all your prayers in, then you should be able to withstand all the darts of the enemy. Amen? Amen. So, this is who we are, and this is what we have to do. We have a nation to build. and your contribution is vital. Every position is important to the whole, as you would have known. If your spark plug isn't firing or doing whatever it's supposed to do, your Lexus, how many of you have a Lexus? Anyway, your Lexus and your BMW and your whatever it is you drive, it is not going anywhere because of one insignificant spark plug. So you may feel that you're a spark plug in this whole ministry, but guess what? There's certain things that are absolutely necessary for you to do to get everybody moving in the way that they should. So don't underestimate the contribution that you make. And so guess what? The Ministry of Works makes it all work together. I was doing a little researching as to what it is you do. And I am told that this is just but a list, a small list of what you do. And so that means that so much of our infrastructure rests and depends on you. And so we need you to show up every day with a strong work ethic and a spirit of professionalism. And as a result, all of our children and grandchildren, I'm now a proud grandmother of 1.5. The other half should come in June, so we will see. And they are going to be blessed. They are blessed by what you do. And so I want you to consider and then share with the person on either side, just one of them, but celebrate 3 strengths that you bring to this job. There's no need to be humble because it's God who gave you the gifts anyway. So you can afford to recognize that you're good at something. Other than that, pink slip is on the way. So please turn to your neighbor and just tell them one strength that you bring to this job. Now, because confession is good, let's say you're a 9.5. What's an area where you need to improve? You can admit that. Yeah. Maybe you could be more punctual. Maybe you could be more pleasant. Because there's always room to grow. So, what I want you to do, in order to practice some of these things, I want you to turn to your neighbor and give a big smile, a Polydent, Colgate, whatever kind of smile you got. Pepsodent, Ultra Bright, whatever. Give them a smile. I'm good at that. And every day, just show up with a smile. It'll make a big difference. In fact, someone might buy you lunch. You never know. Yeah, there you go. No promises. And don't take it as a Valentine invitation either. And so this is what we need to consider. What do I need to change? Because not only will you be a better person, the people who work with you, but the nation will move to another level of greatness as you become more great than you were yesterday. Why do you need? Because we need you to change. And how do you begin? Let's look at some ways for you to begin. Work for the Lord and not for the wages. Let the wages be the optional, extra, optional. Yes, let it be that you are working for the Lord. Again, story told of a woman who was on a plane and the passenger was giving her a really hard time, the stewardess. And she was very gracious, very cordial, very polite, and she was maneuvering around his alcoholic stupor. And so at the end of the flight, one of the other passengers said to her, what is your name? I really want to write in to your boss. I think it was American or Bahamas or whoever. And I want to write in. And she said to him, no, that's all right, that's okay. And he said, no, I want to be able to let them know how you handle this situation. And she said, sir, there's no need to write in. She said, I don't really work for, let's say Bahamas here. She said, I really work for the Lord. Amen. So you don't need to. It showed in the way that she handled her situation. So your work ethic, to be enthusiastic, to be a team player, to be honest, to be industrious, to be considerate. And of course, there are other words that we could have added to that list. But when you show up with all of these things in play, the whole team is stronger and better because you are present. And as a result of that, see what I mean about having fun? Leave your mark.